Hey guys, we are almost done with our percentage unit. Our last two lessons are going to be about simple interest, which we'll look at in this video, and the one after this will be compound interest, which is a little more complex. So breathe a sigh of relief and enjoy this one, which is not nearly as complex. Alright, so first we need to define some words here, because we'll be throwing them around, so we need to know what they're talking about. Principal. Principal would be the outstanding amount of money borrowed or deposited. Interest works two ways. You can either borrow money in a loan from the bank, they want their money back plus some extra because they lent it to you, or if you deposit money in a bank, they'll pay you interest on it for keeping it there. So simple interest is the amount of money that is paid, earned or paid, depending which way you've done it, for the use of the money. Simple interest is just interest that is only earned or paid on the principal, all right, for the period of time that is specified, which is a little different than what we'll look at in the next video. The interest rate is simply the percent. Again, when you hear the word rate, it basically means percent. And time is pretty self-explanatory. In this, I'm talking about how long was this money either deposited or borrowed, because we need to know that when we're calculating our simple interest. The joy of simple interest, there's a formula. I love formulas because that means all you have to do is plug numbers in and solve it. Formulas are great. So our simple interest formula is that our interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. So the principal is the amount of money deposited or borrowed. The rate, remember when we're calculating, when we're doing calculations with percentages, we have to turn them into the decimal form. So keep that in mind when you're doing this multiplication. We're going to change the percentage into its decimal form to multiply by. And then the time. And the thing to remember about time is time has to be in years. It has to be in years. So if you're given months, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set it up as a fraction. And I'll show you that when we hit our examples over here. So in short, I is equal to PRT. That would be what the formula looks like. And again, this is lovely because then you just plug in what you know and you can solve for what you don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write our formula up here at the top so we don't forget it. Interest is principal times rate times time. Because what you'll notice in some of these is we're not solving for the interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up an equation and then we're going to have to solve that equation. The first ones I am solving for the interest. So I have $800. That's my principal, and I'm going to put the letters above it so I know what I'm plugging in for. That's the principal. Here's my rate, 8%. The only thing is I can't put it in as 8. I need to put it in its decimal form. So my rate is 0.08. All right? For 9 months, I just told you that time has to be in years. They've given me months. So what you need to do is you need to take this and you need to think to yourself, well, how many months are in a year? 12. So 9 out of those 12 months, it was deposited. So my time I'm going to write as a fraction, or if we want, we can change it into its decimal form, which would be 0.75. Okay? So whenever we're dealing with months, you have to put it over 12 because there's 12 months in 1 year. And we want to know how many years it is. So this is part of a year. All right? So this is my time. So now I'm just going to plug them in. I know that my interest is equal to my principal, which I said was 800. My rate, we're writing as a decimal, 0.08, times my time, which I'm going to put in here as the decimal, 0.75, or 9/12 of a year. And here's where we're going to use our calculator, because I don't expect you to do all that in your head. I'm certainly not going to. When I do all of this multiplication, I find that the interest is $48. So all you need to do is plug it in, then just do the math and solve it. So this is why I go through and I label them, because then it's nice and easy to just plug them in and solve. So 720, that's my principal, my original amount. Here's my rate, and again, I'm going to rewrite my rate in its decimal form. All right, 0.085. If you've forgotten how to do that, you can go rewatch that video. And my time is 6 months, but again, that's out of the 12 months because we want to write this as years, and I'm going to write that in its decimal form just because that's easier for me to do the math, 0.5. However, if you're using your calculator, it doesn't really matter if you use your fraction or your decimal. So now we just have to plug it in. interest is equal to my principal times my rate times my time. So again, I'm going to use my calculator. And I find out that the interest is equal to 30.6. Since we're dealing with money, I'm going to add that extra zero in my dollar sign. $30.60 interest earned on this. So now let's look. Okay, so 200 borrowed, that's my principal. For 2 years, it's already in years, hallelujah, with $24 of interest. So they've given me my interest. What I'm missing here is my rate. So let's plug in what we know. I know my interest is 24, that goes on this side. My interest is my principal times my rate, which I don't know, times the time. All right, so you'll notice on this side, there's an operation that we can do to simplify. So 200 times 2 is 400. I've got 400 times r is equal to 24. Now all I'm doing is solving an equation, which you're very good at this point. 24 divided by 400 gives me 0.06. However, this is in its decimal form, so I'm going to write it as a percentage instead, which just means I multiply by 100. Again, you can rewatch those videos. So 6% would be the interest rate, all right? So same thing here, $400 deposited, that's my principal. 9 months is my time, however, remember we want it to be in years, so I'm going to write it as 9/12, which is 0.75. And $24 of interest. So again, they've given me my interest, and again, it is my rate that I'm missing. 400 times the rate times the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the two numbers that are on the same side by multiplying 400 by 0.75, because the associative property tells me it doesn't matter what order I multiply it. So when I do that, I find out that that is 300 times r is equal to 24. Now I'm going to solve for r because I have an equation, a one-step equation to solve now. When I divide by 300, I get 0.08, which would be the decimal form of the rate, so I want to write it as a percentage, 8%. All right? So it's important that we label them, then all we have to do is plug it in and solve. Hallelujah for formulas. I love them. So 350, there's my principal. I have my rate again, but I want to write it as a decimal with $84 of interest. So there's my interest. So it's the time that I'm missing this time. So I have my interest, my principal, my rate, and I'm missing the time. So again, I'm going to combine my, combine my like terms, however you want to say it, by multiplying 350 times 0.08 gives me 28 times t is equal to 24. So then I'm just going to solve my equation. 84 divided by 28 gives me 3 years. So we always want to label what it is. It's 3 years. I'm writing in there really little, sorry. So our time is 3 years. We want to put our labels on there because 3 doesn't really tell me much. 3 months, 3 days, 3 seconds, 3 years. That's why we always want to make sure we're labeling our things so we know what we're talking about. All right, so again, I go through here. 800 is my principal. They gave me my rate, which I want to change into a decimal. And my interest was 42. So then I just plug my numbers in. Formula's right up here. I'm plugging the numbers in where I see them. And I don't know the time. So again, we're going to combine these two by multiplying 800 times 0.07 is 56. And what I notice is this is going to be a fraction of a year. So 42 divided by 56 gives me 0.75, which is 3/4 of the year. 3/4 of 12 would be 9 months. So this would be 9 months. If you leave it as 0.75 years, I'll accept that as well. But we did talk about in previous lessons how we can do that and change that back. So 7.75, which is 3/4, then multiply 3/4 times the 12 months, tells me it's 9 months, not a full year. Okay? So this is nice and easy. All you have to do is plug in your numbers and solve using your formulas, okay? Tomorrow's will be a lot more complex and rather lengthy lesson. Sorry about that, but not much I can do. If you have questions, please rewatch this video. You can rewatch the previous videos as well to help you. Post your questions in the comments. You can email me or you can ask in class. Have a great night, guys.